How to install a saddlebag lid protection on 2019 and newer Indian Chieftain and the Dark Horse and Challenger models with these new saddlebag lids. So we're going to install a do-it-yourself CruzArmor kit. You can pick these up online or at some of our participating Indian dealers, but there's one for a matte finish and also a gloss finish. We're going to go ahead and use the gloss finish kit on this saddlebag today. Inside that kit, you're going to find a couple things. You're going to find instruction. Make sure and read through these. The mixing solutions for your slip solution and anchor solution are on here, so you can see how to mix up your fluids. You also have a squeegee little sticker you can put inside your bag so you remember who's protecting your bags. And then the kit itself. So when you open up the kit, you're going to have all your different pieces, but this is your top piece. So you want to make sure and lay everything on, just get an idea where the kit positions before you get started, so you're not fumbling with it after it's all peeled back and ready to go. You want to make sure and clean the lid real well. This one's pretty cleaned up, but we're going to go ahead and squirt it down again with our soap slip solution just to make sure there's no dust. You want a clean area, as dust-free as possible. Hairs, you don't want dogs running around getting little hairs in there. But go ahead and clean it up. Then what you want to do is go ahead and spray your sheet here. You want everything wet. Wetter the better. You want to, again, not just for dust, you want to make sure and knock down any dust that's in the air, but you want to create a layer of soapy fluid on here, and when we peel back the material, we're going to spray the adhesive backing as well, so that when you lay that down, you'll have a good layer of fluid that the film floats on, so to speak. So what we're going to do is go ahead and I'm just going to peel back a little area at a time. You don't want to pull the whole thing off at once. It's like a big sticker. It does have adhesive underneath, and you do not want it folding over onto itself. It'll be tough to get it apart, or you don't want to be dropping it on the ground or getting excess dust or hairs, etc. in it. So I'm just peeling it back and spraying it as I go. Last little piece here. And, so again, good and wet. Make sure and spray everything good and wet. You want to make sure your hands are clean, wet. You don't want to touch this stuff with dry fingers either, because your body fluids, oils can transfer over onto it and you leave a fingerprint in there. So as long as it's wet, like I said, you can fold it over onto itself. It's all good to go. So again, good and wet. And then just lay it on there. And what we're going to do is, just start in this area around this handle. You just want to line it up, give it a good, maybe a 1/8 of an inch gap around there. You don't want it hanging over in there where you might be catching the lip of the film every time you go to open your bag. So give it about a, like I said, 1/8 inch little gap, and then just go ahead and start squeegeeing lightly. And I'm just doing it really light right now. You just want to kind of set it in place. Get it where you want it. If it needs to get moved just a little, it can still slide a little because it's soapy. And again, just squeegee that down around this handle here, okay? Obviously, you're not gonna have this CruzArmor sticker on here unless you want to. We could certainly supply you with one. But this actual bag is going into one of my Indian dealers that wants it as a showroom piece, just to show people what CruzArmor does. So we're gonna have it in their showroom so they can offer this to their customers. So again, we're just kind of moving along. Make sure it's wet on top as well, so that your squeegee slides and you can kind of see where you've squeegeed. You want to make sure and do overlapping strokes so that you don't leave gaps of fluid or air or soap under there. So you want to make sure and overlap like you're mowing the lawn. If you ever find that there's a piece of dust or hair or something under there, you can go ahead and just lift it, spray it, and keep on moving. So we're just going to keep kind of moving out from center. Let's go ahead and move to the back. Let's finish this back here. So again, just squeegee in, not aggressively, just lightly, so that it gets the majority of the fluids out and soap. What you'll find when you mix up your fluids, if you ever find where the thing is just really sliding, see now it's tacked down, but if you find that it's sliding quite a bit, you have too much soap in your mixture. So you need to reduce that, dilute it down, add some water to your soap mixture. If it's really sticking, you don't have enough soap, but more than likely most people will tend to put a little bit too much soap sometimes. Just squirting it in, and again, it'll just keep sliding on you. So now we're at this back edge. We just kind of start more in the middle and work our way out. So if they're these, what we call these are little fingers, and they'll lay right down. But if you work them out to a point like this, it's much easier than working them to the middle and ending up with a big gap in the middle. So kind of think about moving everything out to these points. Okay, and we'll go with this side over here. You want to keep it wet. Make sure underneath you're keeping it wet. If you find that when you're squeegeeing it seems like things are sticking and not moving, just lift it and squirt a little more soapy water under there. And in the instructions you see where we have the slip solution, which is what we're working with right now, and then an alcohol anchor solution, which I'm going to show you how that stuff works here in a minute. Primarily if you have areas that don't really want to lay down when you hit it with the alcohol spray, it will lock those things down. Like as we get up here, we'll probably use a little of it. But as you can see, it's still moving around up here. The whole back end is done, so we're going to go ahead and kind of roll this edge a little bit back here. So again, now you just start up on top and rolling over. And again, making sure to use overlap, oops, see, caught it there. Make sure to use overlapping strokes so you don't trap anything up on top. Just take your time. I can see where a couple of these little fingers are wanting to stay, so what we're going to do now, we're going to go ahead and make sure this back end is completely done. So we're going to go ahead and squeegee this down a little harder, just to make sure we didn't leave anything. And I'm giving it, I don't know if you can see how much this bends. I mean, you can really give it some pressure right now. As long as the top is wet, as long as you keep this top wet, the squeegee will slide really nice on there. And I see there's a little bubble right there that was out in the middle. So yeah, glad we caught that. And yeah, just moving everything out. Now we're gonna we'll save these fingers for a minute right here, and I'll show you with the alcohol. But we're gonna go ahead and lay this front down. So again, make sure it's good and wet. Put a little bit more underneath. Again, we're using that slip solution. So now up here, because you do have more fingers, so what you want to do is just kind of, and I'm not pulling it and stretching it, but just giving it a little tension so that the fingers along this edge will just lie down. Okay, then we're going to do the same this direction. This is a pretty big finger right here. So to get fingers out, you stretch them out. So again, if we stretch a little bit, those things will kind of disappear on us, okay? So, again, wet. And since I'm gonna stretch to a corner, now is when I'm gonna use this alcohol mixture. So just a little bit on that tip underneath, so that when I pull that out, it locks down and it's not going to retract back or slide back, being it's slippery. Then we're going to do the same thing on this side. Again, we're going to take the alcohol mix just under this tip, just under the kind of the inch tip right there. And again, as you see when I pull, these fingers here just disappear. And we're just going to lay it down. Now, I see there's just a little air bubble here, so we're just going to lift it, spray. There we go. So now again, starting out here, now that this corner's down, we want to just bring everything out. as I mentioned, we have this for matte and gloss. So on those matte surface bikes, you know, you scuff them, get a scratch in them, you can't buff them out. It'll make them shiny. So this is a lifesaver on matte paint, especially for the Indians. So what I'm using here is the alcohol mix just up under this edge. Same concept. When I squeegee this down, I don't want it coming back up. I want those fingers down for good. And so what that alcohol does, it washes out the soap and allows the adhesive that's on the bottom side of this to grab the paint, so to speak. Again, just keep working it down. If you get somewhere that you need to lift it, you know, you can lift it, respray. Alcohol mix. For that alcohol mix, as it says in the instructions, it's 25% isopropyl alcohol and 25% or 75% water. And isopropyl alcohol, you want the 70% strength. They have alcohol at CVS or Target or Walmart that you have 90% typically and 70 are what they sell. So buy the 70%. Okay, so back here, got everything. Got one little spot back here, a little air pocket. So I'm just gonna, again, this stuff's really forgiving as long as you keep everything good and wet. I'm just gonna lift that here, give it a little more. There's a little air pocket that got caught under there. And now the thing with the alcohol, since I sprayed here, it's anchored, it's locked down. So if you had a bubble or a liquid bubble out here, you can't chase it through the wall, so to speak. We haven't used any alcohol underneath in this section, so I'd be safer if you found some liquid bubble to work it out this way versus coming out this side. So now all that's left on this piece is just this front. So again, we're gonna spray just a little alcohol up in there, a little soapy water on top, and again, we're just gonna work that down, and you'll see those fingers just disappear. You kind of think about dividing and conquering. If you have a big one, as you go down, it will turn into a bunch of little smaller ones. If it lifts, and that's exactly what I was talking about. You'll have a finger that lifts, and what's happening, the moisture is trying to escape there, and it's all wet. So again, the alcohol mixture up underneath those, and those will lay right down. Okay. So that's it for the top. When you're wiping it down, you want to make sure and start in the middle and wipe outward. You don't want to go against the grain, so to speak, and hit one of these edges that would possibly cause it to lift. And if you're lifting with the microfiber, you could get some little fibers that get stuck under the adhesive, so you don't want that. See, there's just a little bit of a air pocket or something here. So I'm going to use the soap. This side, that's all we used was soap, so it lifts up very nicely. And we'll just go ahead and squeegee that out. So again, you find something under there, you find a hair out in the middle, go ahead, you can feel free to use the soap, make everything wet again, lift it, spray well underneath, and use your fingers to rub that out. Try not to use your fingernails because you could scratch and scar the adhesive underneath, which will show up when you lay it back down. But if you're just wiping it with your fingers underneath with soapy water, you are good to go. That should clean out any dust specks if they're too big to notice. One thing you will see when you lay it down first, I don't know if you can see it in the film, but there's some kind of splotchy or foggy little areas. Those will disappear after it sits out in the sun for a little bit or just sets overnight. There's still some moisture underneath this, obviously, as we squeegeed everything out. So that stuff will dissipate out over a few days. But that's it for the top. Now what we're gonna do is move on to this front nose piece. So I'm gonna go ahead and just lift this so you can see a little better. There, so we're gonna hit this front end. Just soap it up a little again. And then find the piece in your kit. And again, soap it up. Soap the piece up, and as we peel it, make sure you keep it wet and soapy. All of these sheets will say if it's the left side or right side, same with these pieces. You want the thinner portion out here and the wider part towards the inside, so you know how that lays. But again, just wet. Now what we're gonna do is just basically butt it up to this line. You don't want it overlapping it, obviously. And you don't want too short or too far away because you'll have a gap there. So you just kind of butt it up. Make sure you're lined up on your edges. Now for this, you will need typically a little bit of alcohol, but let's see what we can do first without. See if it's tacking. It is tacking nice. So again, when you push it up against there, and you can feel, make sure you got a real smooth seam right there. If it's wanting to slide a little bit, again, you can put just a little alcohol just up there into the seam so that when you press it up, see, it already wants to tack, but you press it up and now it's going to want to stay. Push that up real good and tight, and again, we're just kind of looking at this little seam. That's what we're working on right now. I'll put a little alky right there, so she's gonna stay. That's not quite close enough. Again, be patient. This is one of the spots where I'm kind of a stickler. I really like it close. I don't want a seam there that's visible, which for the most part it's not. Even if you leave a little gap, it's not very visible, but we're good. So now, once we get this little end here done, it was kind of riding on top. I can feel a lip. I'm just lifting it, making sure it's butted up against it and not on top of that. Okay. Okay. So our seam is good all the way across. So now it's a matter of just finishing out the bottom here. So we're gonna get her wet. Just go ahead and squeegee it down again, thinking about ending everything at these points, remember? So you don't want to gap it up so you end up with a lot of material in the middle. You want that down and then work your way out towards these points. We'll go ahead and use a little alcohol right here to so that when we stretch it, it's gonna lay down over here. Finger right here, we're gonna spray with a little alcohol so that lays down. We're gonna come across, do the same thing here. So we do have some bubbles here, so I'm gonna make sure they are coming out. They are. If they weren't, I may have to lift it back up, spray a little more soap, but we were good to go. So again, you're just gonna work your way across. We're gonna put some alcohol out on this tip, and then if we just laid this down, you'd have a huge finger there. So what we're gonna do is just give it a little tension there. And, oops, there we go. Sorry about that. A little tension there. And then we will squeegee this thing out. That there you go. Now that front is done. Now the last part, which if we had the handle, we could show you how that, but there is a piece. I'll peel it off and show you. There's a piece that would fit on your handle here, around your keyhole, if you hadn't removed it like we did here. And then there's also another piece, which we are gonna go ahead and install, which is for under the handle. And that is this piece with the curve. The curve goes towards this little cutout hole, which you're not going to see when the handle's there, but that allows it so when you put it up under the handle, it won't mess with that. So that piece just lays in there, very simple. Again, lightly just squeegee out. It's okay, it moves right now for a second, but then we'll position it exactly where we want her. If I wanted, I could even spray a little alcohol so it doesn't slide around. Again, get it right where you want it, and squeegee it out. And that is it. So again, you want to wipe it down. Just let your bike sit for a little bit. If you want to heat gun the edges, you could do that as well. Especially if you're getting some fingers, it's a really good idea. Especially if you're in a colder area, just heat gun along the edges. Keep the heat gun away though. Actually, have the heat gun above your fingers and just kind of feeling and drying along. You do not want to get the heat too much where it would melt the actual film. So it's more just getting it to dry, the surface to dry up around the edges so that those fingers definitely won't lift up. Other than that, it's good to go. It's gonna be clean. You can treat it like your paint, wash it, wax it. We recommend using our CruzArmor detailer. We've partnered with Molecule, and it's a great product. We have it for both matte and gloss paint finishes. And again, that stuff you just spray on and it wipes right off. You can use it on chrome, your glass, paint, whatever. And now it's, again, protected, and you're good to go. CruzArmor.